Okay, gang, here we are. It is Tuesday morning for you, Friday for me. I am here today to give you some information about the background of Islam and where it comes from and how it connects with what we're talking about. Mr. Herman has been going over the 9/11 terrorism, talking about stereotyping, why we still have these kind of these strange beliefs about what's going on, how we can make connections between terrorism and Muslims, and how that stereotype is false. He also talked to you specifically about why a lot of different countries and these really extreme kind of extremist Muslims, how they view America and why things they don't agree with how we live our lives here. And so he's gone over that with you. And so now that we have kind of that understanding, we really need to kind of go back and look at what is Islam. So go ahead and open up your notebook for me. We're going to be looking at this question, what is Islam? And we can even go ahead and put that into our notebook. So if I'm going to go ahead and type in what is Islam. Let's see if I can get it here. And so we need to kind of figure out where this comes from, what's it talking about, how these things are connected together, and so on and so forth. So if we look at the definition of Islam, it actually means to submit to God. So if you are typing in your notebook like I am, we would write down Islam means submitting to God. And if you notice, in this case, a couple of things. One, Islam is highlighted and underlined, so we're definitely going to do that. We're going to color it red, we're going to make it bold so that we know that that is one of our vocabulary words. And additionally, when we're looking at this word here, we got this capital G, God. And we've talked about this before when we talked about Christianity, and you even talked about it last year when you talked about Judaism, that God, capital G God, refers to Yahweh God. So when we're looking at this, we're going to know that this means Yahweh God. So I'm actually going to even type that into my notebook so that I know here. So I'm going to add it here. This is YHWH, who is the God of the Jews and Christians. So it's the same dude, same guy working out the things that we need to know. And so definitely get that into your notebook. It was also born in the 600s on the Arabian Peninsula. So we're going to write that down. Okay. Born in the 600 CE. Of course, we know that CE means Common Era. So born in the 600s in the Arabian Peninsula. Okay. See what else Islam is. Okay, so this is the Arabian Peninsula right here. Now, I want you to go and do a Google search, and I want you to find a picture of the Arabian Peninsula. Okay, so I found, we're going to do an image search here. And if we look at this, this is a good way of understanding where the Arabian Peninsula is. This right here is the Mediterranean Sea. This is Europe. This is the Arabian Peninsula. This is the same location that Moses is going to take the people on when he goes and wanders around in the desert for 40 years. Okay, so the exact same place. I am specifically looking for a topographical map. So maybe I'll put that in here. I want a topographical map. I want to see what it looks like. Oh, I like this one, but it's cut off a little bit, probably a little bit too much. I think I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to clip that. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into my notebook so that I have it. Let me shrink this down so I can show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, and this is the Arabian Peninsula. So I'm going to close out this window. I'm going to pull this over here so you can see. And you can see that I put my Arabian Peninsula map right in here into my notes. This is the Arabian Peninsula. Okay, this is even a better version of the map. If you notice, this is also a topographical map. And if you see this northern part of Africa, we all know what that geographic feature is. That's the Sahara Desert. And you can see it even goes and spreads into what is the Arabian Peninsula here. Now, this is Saudi Arabia, and it is a country that the United States has mixed relationships with, but this is the location that we're kind of talking about. I think we zoom in a little bit. Yep. So this is the Arabian Peninsula. This is what is called the Red Sea. This is where supposedly Moses parts the Red Sea and crosses over when the Israelites are fleeing the Egyptians. And so this is the land that we're talking about. This is the primary focus of who we are. So we want to know, where did it originate? Where did Islam come from? So that's my next bullet. I'm going to make it a big bullet. Where did Islam come from or originate? Okay, so that's our question. So that's what we want to figure out. So if we look at this picture here, we could probably start to get some idea of where it did originate. We know that Arabs worshipped God. So I'm writing that in here. All Arabs worshipped God. And remember, what God is this? This is Yahweh God, God of the Jews, God of the Christians, same guy. Now, this word here, Arabs, these are people who live on the Arabian Peninsula. So the people who lived on that location are called Arabs. And so for a very long time, the Arabs have been worshiping God. If you look, we know that that's true because we've talked about the Christians and the Jews occupying a lot of this territory over the years. So this is another group of people who's going to worship God. Okay, but notice it says here, but by the 600s, they worshiped other spirits too. So I'm going to write that down. Okay, but by the 600s, and this is still CE, they were worshiping other spirits. Okay, and what I mean by that is this. Not necessarily you know how we've been talking about monotheistic and polytheistic religions? This would be an example of a monotheistic group of people, people who believed in Yahweh God, who at the same time were starting to believe in other kinds of gods and spirits, which would be like um, things like, sun gods and, rain gods, things that needed to be more explanation. And so they worship these other kinds of gods. Now, to give us a time frame, we're talking 600s here. So if you notice right here, oops, let's go back. We're talking the 600s. Listen to me. Rome falls in 476 CE. Charlemagne comes on the scene in the 700s, late 700s into the 800s. That's the same time period that we see the Vikings come into play and start to take over territory. This is happening in the 600s, approximately the same time, just in a different location. So if we go back here to our map, here is where the Arabian Peninsula is. This is what we're talking about. And everything else that we've been talking about up to this point is happening in Europe, north of there. Okay? Okay, so continuing on. Now, one of these things that they start to worship is this big black box. If you notice, first of all, it's not black. It has a black covering, like a sheet over top of it. They start to worship things such as this. Now, this box is actually called the Kaaba. And so we're going to have to put that into our notebook. Okay, so let's see here. Do I want to put in a Kaaba? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to pull my notebook over here so we can see it, so we can work on it together. This is my Arabian Peninsula map. I'm going to make it a little smaller so it'll fit up here in this space that I have. And I want to say, when we are talking about these other spirits that they're worshiping, I'm going to put the word Kaaba. Okay? Inside of it was a meteorite that people started to worship. Now remember, these are people who serve or worship Yahweh God. And at the same time, they're starting to worship these other things. And what do we know about worshiping false idols? If you remember from the Ten Commandments, it said that they are not supposed to do this. So people were getting a little upset and people were getting a little frustrated. And so they had this thing called the Kaaba. Inside of it is this meteorite. Now, at the same time, it's been built in a location that's very, very special to both Jews and Christians. And so this meteorite becomes really kind of valuable. So I'm going to do a Google search for the Kaaba because I would like a picture of it put into my notebook. And you can see there's lots of different versions. We're going to talk a lot about the Kaaba because you notice that in all of these pictures, there are just tons and tons and tons of people. And these people are really kind of worshiping at this. It looks like they're worshiping the box, not worshiping the box, but it is essential to the whole process. So I'm just going to choose one. I'm going to pick this one because it's just kind of it's closest. I'm going to copy my image. I'm going to stick it in this space so that we can see what the Kaaba looks like. Okay, and I'm going to add it right there. Okay, so what I need to know about the Kaaba was it was a box built on top of a holy spot. I'm okay with that. Okay, so it's this box that's built on this top of this holy spot, and people would come from all over to worship. So I'm going to write that down too. People would come from all over to worship at this location. It was a huge deal, huge, big deal. Now, when we start to actually talk about more about the practices of Islam, one of the things that we're going to talk about is this box. So don't kind of freak out on me yet. Don't say I don't know a lot about it. Just know that people would worship at it. And it did house several things that were spirits, representations of spirits. And so people were getting kind of frustrated by that. Okay, so let's pull this over here so we can see. This is the Kaaba. And this is what it looks like today. This is the Kaaba right here. And this is the church that surrounds the Kaaba. And we're going to talk about this. This box, the location of this box is super duper important. It's located in the city of Mecca, which is one of our holy spots. Okay, I probably would write that in my notebook. Located in Mecca, Mecca, and it was a holy location. So, something that you have to understand is there is this thing that's happening. They're living on this peninsula. There are all of these people, Arabs, that are living there. They have been worshiping God for hundreds and hundreds of years, but they started to fall away and they started to worship other things, and things started to happen. And at this point, several hundred years after Jesus and all of those things, after all of the stuff in the New and Old Testament, there's a group of people that sees what's going on in the city of Mecca around specifically the Kaaba, and they start to get nervous about that. They start to worry about what's going to happen. So in our notebook, the next thing we want to write is this part right here. Muhammad is disturbed by the corruption in Mecca. Now, Muhammad is just a man. He's a man who was living in Mecca, right here. Jerusalem is to the north. This is the Arabian Peninsula. He's just hanging out there. And he's starting to realize that his holy temple, the place where people are supposed to be worshiping God and doing the things, loving God and honoring God and all of this kind of stuff at this holy spot, are doing things that are not appropriate. Like, the city of Mecca kind of had become a lot more like Las Vegas. You know how people say what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas? That's kind of what happened to this holy city. It became kind of corrupt. There's lots of gambling and lots of women of the night and lots of stuff happening. And so people were like, well, wait a second, this is supposed to be a holy spot. We need to do something about it. We need to clean it up. It would be like me going to Las Vegas and saying we need to clean up this location. So Mohammed is going to actually do that. Okay. And so what happens is he decides that he's going to go out and he's going to pray about what's happening. So we're going to write this down. While fasting, the angel Gabriel tells Mohammed to preach of Allah. Okay, now we got a lot of stuff going on here. First of all, what's fasting? Fasting is when instead of eating, you pray. Okay, it's a traditional holy thing. It happens in a lot of religions. And so, fasting in this case was instead of me eating, I'm going to do something for God. And in this case, it was praying. So, Muhammad went out into the wilderness. He found a cave. He sat down in the cave. He was praying to God. And the angel of Gabriel appears before him and says, go out and preach of Allah. Now, Allah in this case is just the Arabic word for God. It's the same word. So, Arabic word for God. Okay. So, if we look at my notebook, Arabic word for God. Now, this, of course, is a vocabulary word. So, I am going to make it bold and I'm going to color it red so that we know what we're looking at. Okay. What happens is all of these people that he goes around and starts to tell about God don't want to hear about God. So he goes out and he tells people, oh my goodness, Allah, we need to clean up this city. We need to worship. We need to get things in order. Our house is corrupt. There are lots of crime going on, and we need to get it fixed. So he goes and tells people this. The unfortunate part is the leaders of the city of Mecca, leaders of the city of Mecca persecute Muhammad. Now, I did a couple of things that I want you to know here. First of all, we changed the letter in Muhammad's name from a U to an O. I did that on purpose to remind me to tell you that Muhammad can be spelled with both an O or a U. It doesn't matter. The next thing that I did here is that I want you to understand what persecute means. Persecute is when you or someone is being bothered relentlessly. This would be like bullying. Bullying is not something that happens one time. It happens over and over and over again. And so Muhammad was being persecuted. He was being told that he cannot come in and start worshiping God. Everybody didn't want him around. They wanted him to leave. Now, if you think about it, that makes perfect sense because the people who were living in Mecca were living in sin. And so he was going around telling people that they needed to stop sinning, which means that they needed to stop going to the businesses that promoted sin. And if they stop going to the businesses that promote sin, then those business owners are not going to get any money. So, for example, we're going to take gambling. Gambling to some people is a sin, to others it's not. But let's say for this sake of argument that I stood out in front of a casino with a big sign that says gamblers are going to hell. Now, we don't know if that's true or not. I can't prove that, but let's say I did that. And it stopped people from going into the casino to spend their money. The person who runs the casino is going to be very angry at me because I am taking away his business. His business might see the sign and say, oh, this is bad. And they might turn around and leave. He would not be happy with me. The same thing was happening with the leaders of the city of Mecca. They were exceptionally displeased with Muhammad and all that he was doing within the city. So, what Muhammad does is he decides that he needs to run away from the city of Mecca and he flees to a city called Medina. I'm going to put that next on our list. In hiding, okay, so we're going to say Muhammad left Mecca and fled to Medina. Okay, so I'm going to pull my notes over here so you can see. Make it bigger. Okay, so Muhammad left Mecca and he fled to Medina. He's doing that to escape the persecution. He wants to get rid of the stuff that's happening. Now, in the process, he has a dream. Muhammad has a dream. See, what's happening is he knows that he needs to get away. And because if not, he's going to be killed. So one night he falls asleep and he has this dream. In the dream, he is taken by a winged horse to the city of Jerusalem. And while he is there, he talks to God. So Muhammad, knowing that he's going through this persecution, lays down, goes to sleep. While he's asleep, he has this experience in which he's taken on a winged horse and he flies from Mecca to Jerusalem. Once he gets to Jerusalem, he has a conversation with God, okay, at a place called Mount Moriah or Moriah. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of one of those words that is kind of weird. Okay, so in hiding, he has this dream. He flies on a winged horse to Jerusalem. At Mount Moriah, Allah tells him that he needs to leave Mecca and go to Medina. So we're going to write that in there. At Mount Moriah, Allah tells Muhammad to flee from Mecca to Medina. And he does. He goes and he takes his family and they leave Mecca and they travel north to Medina. Now make sure that your Mount Moriah is bold and colored so that we know that that's a vocabulary word. This process is called the Hijra. It's called the Hijra. So Muhammad leaving Mecca and fleeing to Medina is called the Hijra. It's a very, very, very special time in Muslim culture. And so he leaves and he ends up in Medina and he's able to convert lots of people. But while he's there, that doesn't mean that people in Mecca have forgotten about him. So Muhammad is continually being attacked while he's in Medina from the people of Mecca. They haven't forgotten him and they don't like him. So Mecca, the city of Mecca attacks Medina, and here Muhammad is going to preach the idea of jihad. Now, this might be a word that you have heard before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. The word jihad is super duper important, and it's something that Muhammad is going to preach very strongly on. Okay? Let me tell you what a jihad is. Okay, so let me pull this over here. There are actually two types of jihad. The first type is to better yourself. Okay? To do something that betters yourself. To be on a jihad means to go out there and either learn something new, try something different, be educated, just do something that you are passionate about. Okay? Another type of jihad is to defend Islam. And this sometimes means to the death. Okay, so let me give you some examples. A true jihad, this concept of bettering yourself, a true jihad would be something that defines your person. Okay, so a jihad could mean to be a better parent. A jihad could mean um, to um, fix the problems in the world. It could mean, goodness, Miss Lederer, I don't know what's going on here. It could mean something like quitting smoking. Okay, this idea of bettering yourself, fixing who you are, is what a jihad means. However, Muhammad also said that a jihad could be anything that could also defend Islam. Now, I'm going to tell you that there are some rules here. Number one rule, the attacker must have a weapon in hand. Okay? The attacker must have a weapon, or it's not a real jihad. Okay? Two, cannot fight against women, children, or the elderly. Okay? All of those things make up a jihad. You can't just do willy nilly whatever you want. Okay? Because if you do, this could go against the teachings of Mohammed. You have to make sure, number one, that they have a weapon in their hand, so you're fighting against someone who's fighting back against you, and you can't fight against women, children, or old people. Those are two hard and fast rules when it comes to a jihad. Jihad is going to be something super duper important when it comes to how we defend our faith. Tomorrow, we're going to understand a little bit more about what that faith looks like and what are the steps in becoming a Muslim or how do they practice their faith. So make sure that you tune in tomorrow. And when we get there, make sure you have your notebook out and ready to go. As always, make sure if you have any questions that you contact Mr. Herman or myself, and we'll try and get those all cleared up for you. I hope that you have a nice day, and we'll be talking again soon. Bye bye.